Name?
Phethagatso Motumi.
Age?
27.
Country of origin?
South Africa.
Okay, so my question for you today is, what's the one thing you need to detach from in order to open up space to receive?
Great question. The thing that I need to detach from the most is probably the version of love I know being definitive. I don't know if I should expand. I should probably explain what that means. Basically, the version of love that I grew up seeing was very chaotic, sometimes toxic, and I think for most of us, the way that we view love first starts with our parents and what we see from there. It's part of like the psychological study of attachment theory, and it obviously evolves, but also we internalize it, and then how we navigate spaces in and around relationships also mirrors what we saw growing up. So basically I would need to change seeing that as the only thing that can exist, so that I can open room to different versions of it that are healthier. And yeah.
How did you get to the realization that this version of love that you speak of wasn't necessarily something you wanted?
It was by accident. I think it happened, a lot of it happened last year, where it was a panini. we were in a pandemic and everyone was in lockdown, and we were all forced to stop and sit with ourselves for long periods of time, probably longer than we've ever had to, without the usual distractions. And in that space, a friend sent me like a video to a Grapevine video. So Grapevine is like this YouTube channel, and the topic that they were discussing as like a group of 20-something black millennials from the US and like the diaspora was basically love in relation to attachment theory. So I had never heard of it before, so it felt like a brain fart a little bit. And basically they were all talking about their different relationships with their parents, as well as their relationships that they had been in. And then someone spoke about knowing your script, so like being aware of what your parents' relationship was like and how that affected you, and then just like kind of doing some internal work to see how that's affected the different humans and partners that you have either let in or not let into your space.
What was the type of love that you saw?
Yeah, I think women being hurt repetitively seems to be the vibe, and I didn't want that to ever be my portion. So I just repelled the whole idea of love in general. But now, here we are, realizing that that's not necessarily healthy. So yeah, I think definitely looking into how my parents' relationship played a factor into the ways that I love and experience relationships has been a good learning curve and an area to detach from. Yeah, just figuring out that there are many different versions of love.
So what was sort of your patterns of behavior that led you to this not wanting love to be definitive in the way that you saw it?
So I think it wasn't necessarily patterns, but probably like finding this video by accident, or like a friend sending me this YouTube link, and then I inadvertently went down a rabbit hole after watching this Grapevine on, they were discussing love in relation to attachment theory, which I'd never heard of before. But it's basically a psychological study where you look at your parents' relationship and then how their relationship with one another affected you and your relationships with them, as well as with future partners. So I think watching the episode and listening to what a lot of the different people said, whether their parents were still together, or were together and things were bad, or they weren't together, or they were raised by single parents, etc., etc., etc.
Can you describe a moment after realizing your script and the type of attachment theory that you most identify with? How do I ask this? How has it informed what you want now for yourself?
I think, how's it informed what I want now? I don't even know if I have the vocabulary to answer this. I think, so I'll start with the first part. So the script is more, having parents who were together and then got divorced. And then, what was the next part of the question? Oh, yes, and the attachment theory, yeah. So the script was two parents who were together that ended up getting divorced. And then my attachment theory is fearful avoidant, which basically, in a nutshell, means that, like, you crave romantic intimacy, you just avoid it because of, like, the fear attached to breakups and what happened with your parents and blah, 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 blah. So that informs what I want now, or how I move now, because I notice that I do very good at running away. So I just kind of avoid the whole concept as a thing, and chose to kind of not engage. I would be either very dismissive or, just find ways to not get into relationships in the long term. There was always some or other reason. So now I think it's informed what I want, because now I know what to look for. I know what I can live with. I know what I don't want to live with. I know the kind of person that I want. Someone who, gives me peace. I think because I grew up with a lot of drama and a lot of chaos, I want someone who balances it out with calmness, because I think as humans you just adapt and then you get used to chaos, but it doesn't necessarily have to be normalized, since everyone's normalizing everything.
When we speak about detachment and you detaching from that definitive love, right, that you experienced in your childhood, what is your process of detaching? How have you gone around that? Is there a process, or is it more of a feeling,
I don't know if it's a process that I've consciously thought of, like a recipe, like step one. I think it's more, so basically the whole thing was that, like, in my head as a kid, love is great and love is nice until it's really not nice. And it's usually not nice for whoever has a vagina. So just, not even from my parents, but like from my best friend's parents, from my aunts, from my other aunts, and the other aunts. So it was just a repetitive pattern of, like, women who just seemed like they were going through the most. I have no idea how our mothers did it, to be honest. So the process was loving love and maybe the idea of love on everyone else. Like, I still love love and I still want love, and, like, there's still a bit of, like, hopeless romantic blah 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 blah, but it always seemed like it wasn't something that was for me and more like for other people.